Hello, my name is Hayden Hall, and today I'll be sharing with you my own personal model of communication that I've created. In class, we learned about 3 different types of communication models: the transmissive model, the interactive model, and the transactional model. The transmissive model was the very first one. It was very basic. It focused on the encoding and decoding of messages and just the sender and receiver. So it was very one way and very, very basic. Building up on that was the interactive model, and as the name suggests, it really explored deeper into the fact that communication is an interactive process, and there's also psychological and physical context that can't be ignored. So taking all of that, that's how the transactional model was created. The transactional model was the latest one, and it's the most widely accepted. It explores the cultural context, relational context, the psychological context, physical context, and social context of communication, while also looking into the nonverbal and verbal cues. It explores the idea that conversation is a simultaneous and ongoing process, and it also emphasizes active listening. So it really dug really deep into communication as a whole. So building upon all that, I created my own model, and it's definitely a simplified version of everything that I've just told you. Here's my model, and I'll bring it a little bit closer so you can see. So as you can see, my model is very basic and to the point. So there are 2 communicators here, and there's an arrow encompassing the entire model, and that's to signify that it is an ongoing and simultaneous process. So, you're actively listening and you're actively responding, and, it's constantly going back and forth. So there's 2 back and forth arrows right here. The first one is the verbal message channel, and the verbal message channel is the speaking part of the conversation. So that's all the verbal cues you can pick up on. That's what they say. So the next one is what I think is the most important in communication, which is the nonverbal message channel. So that's pointing towards their bodies, and that's going to be the nonverbal cues that you can pick up on in a conversation. That's the body language, the facial expressions, the way they look, the way they're acting, the way their body's facing. It's every single thing that your body might be saying but your mouth isn't. And I do think that's the most important part of communication. You can really tell what somebody is saying more when you're looking at how they're presenting themselves than you can while just hearing what they're saying. Because you might be hearing what they're saying, but you may not be understanding what they're saying. So I do think that that is definitely a more important part of communication than the 3 models I mentioned might suggest. So that's why I wanted my model to more focus on nonverbal communication. And I hope that it did focus on that, and I hope it helped you to learn a little bit more about what I personally think communication is. And thank you for listening.